Hello everybody and welcome to my new SMB going into the third week of November. Let's see what the market brings us. So as always, we'll start off on the monthly on the DXY, and like we saw in the last weeks, we had a nice monthly zone right here of which we found reaction. Now there's two options, or we just fall down. That could be an option. But what my rule says is once the monthly taps a zone, I can trade against that zone if we tap a zone against on the weekly. So if we proceed keeping that in mind, we'll go to the weekly and we can see that we tapped a nice zone right here, forming kind of a shoulder one, head shoulder two, where the bear strides. You see here a very nice liquidity wick, and then after that we formed an inverse head and shoulder on the weekly, forming new impulses, corrections, impulse corrections, bullish M's to the upside, of which right now the fib is triggered, this fib right here, in combination with a zone and a nice wick at the end of the week. So my bias on the DXY is strongly bullish, and that brings us to the first setup, which is Euro USD. On the monthly, we can see that we had a very strong impulse. A lot of bulls are present, not a lot of bears against us. And then finally, we made these highs right here, tapping this monthly IC. So that makes me think bearish. If we continue on the daily, we can see that we were forming in that big impulse, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And right at that monthly zone, we can see that the bulls slowed down. They had multiple opportunities to form new higher highs and higher lows. But what can we see right here is that we took liquidity here. We tried to close above it with the fib completion, and boom, the bears kicked in impulsively on that monthly zone. We had new opportunities on the head and shoulder, the inverse head and shoulder with a shoulder one, head, shoulder two, and again the bulls failed where the bears won. Keeping that in mind, we can see a bearish W right here, where we are situated right now on the phase 2. Impulse, correction, leg 1, 2, 3, and leg 4. And if we zoom in a little bit more, we can see that we tapped the top of the last high, and we were able to close right below the zone right here, ending the week with some nice liquidity to the downside. Continuing to the daily, we can see that we are forming a very big weekly pattern, leg 1, 2, 3, 4, continuing to the downside right here, where we have a risk-free zone until right here. So most of you already saw this setup last week, taking a bearish W on the 4-hour. This is the same that I did, so I took this 4-hour pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, and my rule is the following. If I'm not running 1%, I personally choose to close my trades during the weekend. But luckily we are forming a new opportunity. We had the bearish W right here, forming a new bearish W, and I'll mark it out with leg 1, 2, 3, 4 possibly, and a shoulder one with a little nick right here. So we'll see how the market opens. If they don't open too impulsively against us, I will take or a market execution or place my limit if we close a little bit below this. So that was Euro USD, and I'm also looking for a long on USD CHF. So another USD pair, as our bias on the USD pairs is bullish. And we'll start off on the monthly. On the monthly, we can see that we are ranging between this and this zone. And the last time we tapped this zone, we came back to the bullish zone right here. Let's see if it aligns with the weekly. And of course, yes, it does. We have lows right here, bulls kicking in, bears trying very, very aggressively, but ending the week with the bulls overpowering the bears time and time and time again. So we could look at a weekly 4 hour. And if we look to the daily, we can even see a daily pattern with leg 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, this is a very big pattern and I was not looking to a decel. But if we mark out the daily zone right here, we can go to the 4 hour and see shoulder 1, head, shoulder 2, of which I will place my limit right here at the top of the IC. Last one to close off this beautiful trade. One extra thing on the daily that is working aggressively in our favor is that we can see at the end of the week that the bears really tried to close, and we did not only close above the weekly and daily zone right here, but even this zone on the daily was 1. So this zone can play in favor of us, and it aligns with the inverse head and shoulder on the 4 hour. Be aware, and most of you will have seen this in their own SMBs, is that we have a couple of opportunities on the CHF pairs. So we can see out CHF also forming on the weekly zone right here with a 4 hour inverse head and shoulder. Same for cut CHF, of which we have the weekly zone right here and a 4 hour pattern right here. My preference at the moment goes to USD CHF. And the reason is that our weekly zone is aligning very much with the monthly zone. So if I take my horizontal line, we see the weekly zone right here, and the monthly zone is almost exactly aligning. So we have 2 higher time frames that are working in our favor, of which we just took liquidity. Another thing, for example, we look at cut CHF. We don't have a specific reoccurring weekly zone. What do we have is an inverse head and shoulder that was disrespected. You see that the weekly zone was disrespected and we closed aggressively below it. We still have the zone right here, but it is not proven as much as USD CHF. That being said, both and even the 3 setups are valid. They are good setups and I would be prepared to take them. So for me, it's a first come, first serve scenario, with my preference being USD CHF. So that was it for the week. I wish you all the best of luck and see you next week.